Welcome back, still watching Smart Markets, and now time for our global exclusive which we promised you. Morningstar CEO-Designate Kunal Kapoor joins in on the show live from Chicago. Kunal, who succeeds Morningstar Founder Joe Mansueto, takes charge from the 1st of January. Kunal, good evening. Thanks so much taking time out for us and chatting up with us on the show today. Congratulations on your new role. You've been at the Morningstar for some time now, almost 2 decades, since '97. It's been quite a meteoric rise for you. Talk to us about how you're feeling now. You must be pretty elated, isn't it?
Thank you. It feels great to have this opportunity to speak with you, and certainly I'm excited to have the opportunity to head Morningstar in 2017 and beyond. I've been at Morningstar almost 2 decades now, and probably the most important reason I came to Morningstar was not only to feed my interest in investing, but also because of the mission-driven nature of Morningstar's work. And so I'm very excited to be leading an organization that at its core is trying to do the right thing for investors. Since I joined Morningstar, we've expanded globally into many markets, including in India. And so to have an opportunity to work with and serve investors globally, including in India, is something that's very important to all of us here and to me personally.
Right. Kunal, great having you on the show. Let's talk a little bit more about what your focus is going to be once you take over. Morningstar is one of the most renowned global firms for complex investment research. What's your key strategy going to be to steer the company ahead?
So historically, Morningstar's moat, as we think about it, has been in terms of us building out our data and research capabilities. We think of that as our power plant, and we take that and essentially push it across many of our different capabilities, whether that be in technology and software or in investment management. And so as we look ahead and think about the future, we're going to continue to invest very heavily in our core data and research capabilities globally, including in India, because we think that if we do that well, then it certainly powers a lot of the other things we want to do locally. And so if you just take a step back and see what we've done in India in the time we've been there, we started by basically building a database and adding research on top of that. And really in the next few years, we are going to do even more to build out that database and the research that we make available to local investors.
Mm-hmm. Kunal, talk to us about your plans for India business. India clearly as an investment destination environment, overall it's quite a bustling one right now. So what exactly are Morningstar's plan here?
Yeah, certainly the Indian investment environment continues to be a promising one. We've always taken a long-term approach to investing, and so it is in India as well. We certainly see many opportunities, and right now we are particularly interested in serving financial advisors who are a growing force in India. We think that the model that they've put together and how they're trying to reach investors is really well aligned with what we're doing here. And so in terms of how we grow our business in the next few years, you're really going to see us focusing on the advisor and ensuring that the advisor has the right toolkit to serve individuals. We're also interested over time in continuing to strengthen our relationship with individuals. And so we continue to invest in our website, for example, and build out that aspect of our business. But really what we're trying to do is form a good core and invest for the long term in India.
Okay, that's as far as plans for India go. But, what can be said about the investment climate in India right now? How are you viewing that, Kunal? We've been quite the FII favorite. Do you suspect that we're going to be the flavor of the season and continue to do so?
Well, if you look at the flows of money over the past decade, even as interest in emerging markets has waned a little bit, you've continued to see that India has been a positive repository of flows, and that you can really tie back to the fact that India has sort of progressed steadily year in and year out, whereas some of the other emerging markets that have been popular have been somewhat more volatile from an ongoing perspective. And so certainly some of the work that you've seen the RBI governor do, and he too, like us, has worked here in Chicago. He's done some nice work, and you've certainly seen the markets be steady, and you've seen foreign and institutional investors respond positively to that. Looking ahead, I would expect that long-term investors will continue to favor the environment that there is in India because it tends to be more transparent, relative to what you get in some other emerging markets.
Kunal, talk to us about how your outlook is over the long term. When we talk about 3 to 5 years, what does the potential look like for the Indian economy, the Indian markets? You interact with the top asset allocators across the world. What's the sense you gather for their interest in emerging market, particularly India?
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, emerging markets as a category have been less interesting to a lot of asset allocators, but India has sort of been an exception. There's a few exceptions, and India is certainly one of them. And I expect that will, persist, and certainly our analysts, continue to look for opportunities there as well. And if we step back and look globally, we certainly see a lot of ongoing potential in India. What I would caution against is a short-term mentality. Emerging markets, India included, tend to have some short-term volatility to them, and so if you're going to invest in them, you want to do it for the long haul, and the evidence suggests that if you do, you will be fine, and so that's how I would approach it.
Kunal, would the argument that the Indian economy is at an inflection point find any favor with you? Does it look like we're headed from being a developing economy towards a truly developed one? And to what extent would you say the new regime at the center can take credit for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always arbitrary when you talk to different people in terms of what constitutes emerging and what constitutes more developed. Certainly from the perspective of progress, the Indian economy has made a lot of progress. The Indian markets have continued to, deregulate, which are all good signs and something that attracts investors. Certainly, if you look in the last few years, there was a lot of excitement when the Modi government came in terms of what they would be able to do from an investment and an economic standpoint. And I would say that, expectations have been high, and probably whenever you have high expectations, they're always a little tough to meet. But they've done a good job in general in terms of moving things along. Certainly, there's always an opportunity to accelerate things, and if that happens, it certainly is something that would be well received by investors, both, I think, locally and globally.
Kunal, last question. When you analyze India on various parameters, be it fund flows, macro indicators, valuations, and return ratios, the global investor research, how does India, stack up there versus all these other asset classes or in emerging markets?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the last few years, the Indian markets have done better than a lot of other global markets, and so I wouldn't be surprised if, in the next few years, returns in India are a little bit more on the lower side relative to where they've been, and perhaps track, to some more global markets as well. I will say, as I mentioned earlier on, that we believe that India is a good destination for long-term investors, and that if you take a long-term view, you can continue to do well. Our analysts, like a lot of mutual funds that are available in India, that you can really diversify your portfolio through. So the Franklin Prima Fund comes to mind, the HDFC 100 comes to mind, Birla Frontline. Those are some that certainly our analysts are high on, and I think a good way to invest in India for the long haul.
All right, Kunal, we'll leave it at that. Such a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for taking time out for us this evening.
Yeah, it was my pleasure, and I look forward to leading Morningstar. Thank you.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.